Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I am Colleen and this is Embracing Your Essence on Lily Dale Radio. And I have not seen you guys in forever, it seems like, because I have been moving and all of that, but I am happy to be here with you today. So as soon as someone joins in with me, could you just let me know my sound is on, because it wasn't showing up that I am on. So somebody let me know if you can hear me. I want to make sure that's all good before I get going, in case I need to change a setting or anything like that. So I do want to thank you and for being here. Hello, hello. Hi, Allison. Hi, Lizzie. Hi, Debbie. Nice to see you guys. Hi, Sagan. Nice to see you. So somebody just give me a little post and tell me you can hear me, just so I know. Oh, thank you, Lizzie. I appreciate that. Just wanted to make sure. So tonight we are going to be talking about loving difficult people. And we've all experienced difficult people, haven't we? And sometimes it gets very dramatic and all sorts of issues. Before I get to all of that, I do have some announcements I do want to make. Don't worry, it won't take forever. First off, we do have some new Lily Dale radio shows coming. I have a list, so I'm going to look at it because I don't have it memorized. Angie Apt is going to do, or is doing, a show on Monday evenings at 7 o'clock. Upcoming in June will be Molly Hastings is going to do one on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Chris Seastead, Janice Dreschman will do Thursday at 7 p.m. Sharon Hill will do Mondays at noon. And Kara Seekings is going to do a thought exchange program on Saturday mornings. Those four will be in June, which is next week, I understand. So Angie's has been going on for a while on Monday. Also, I do want to tell you that if you have not yet joined my spiritual growth and support group, you can find it pinned to the top of my page, which you may be on at this moment. Colleen Vanderzijden, medium and intuitive life coach. This is a group where we talk about whatever we want to talk about that has to do with spirituality, and support each other as we go through our journey in life. And just very briefly, I do want to also tell you that Lily Dale is going to be opening, and I know people have questions about that. They just announced this information yesterday, and I think some of it is still being worked out, but a brief version, and you can probably find more on Lily Dale Assembly Incorporated on Facebook. I don't think it's on their website yet. So on Facebook, you can see it. So the plan is to open when we reach phase 4 or June 26th, whichever is most appropriate. I'm not sure yet. So, and when we open, though, it's going to be some changes. All of the workshops are online. Many of the special events have been moved till next year because people can't be here. There are going to allow 80 people a day on the grounds, only 80. You must have a ticket ahead of time. So you can't just show up, okay? You've got to have a mask. They will take your temperature at the gate. Right now, there is somebody at the gate, so you can come and visit and wander the grounds. If you want to, you have to have a mask, and somebody will just check with you to let you in. They're trying not to have the place be overrun with people, of course. Now, because of the phases in New York State and all of that, so there's the different phases when things can start happening. And there's some questions about when mediums can do in-person readings, because what category do we exactly fall under? So people are checking on that. I do know that during the summer, when the summer season officially opens, which is supposed to be, like I said, around June 26th, there will be 2 outdoor services a day, one at 1 p.m. and one at 4 p.m. Then there will be the 2:30 church service. That is still going to be happening in the auditorium. The day tickets are only valid between 10 in the morning and 5:30 in the afternoon. So don't show up at 3 or you're only going to get a couple hours in. If you want to come for the day, you need to get here a little bit earlier. You're going to be limited in time and limited in the number of people coming in. At these services, the outdoor services, we don't know who's serving at these. Some of the mediums are not doing any work at all publicly. Some are not going to do the services, but they're going to do some private sessions in their houses. So if you have a favorite medium and you're wanting to come to Lily Dale, you need to check with them to find out what they're doing. I personally have not made up my mind because I'm not really sure how to do this. So I'm looking for guidance from life, God, to let me know. Ryan is saying he's so confused by the information. You're not alone, Ryan. You know, they haven't mentioned anything about the gift shops. I know they haven't mentioned that. I think it's a personal decision based on the businesses deciding what they want to do. I would imagine the bargain shop will open. I haven't heard yet about the Crystal Cove. This is all very new and evolving, so we're not going to really know exactly what's happening until a few more days have passed. They've posted this information, but there are still so many questions. So I'm not sure about that. I would assume the bargain shop, like I said, will be open. I know the museum will be closed, the library is going to be closed, the healing temple will be closed. So there are going to be, so many things will be online. The meditation in the morning will be online. The healing will be online. All of the workshops, like we said, will be online. They're talking about doing Monday night circles online. I will not be doing those. There's still some questions, but that's all I know. So I'm just sharing what I can tell you. I do recommend, actually, if you want readings, to just go with Skype, Zoom, or FaceTime, something like that. It may be the easiest. Later on in the summer, then more people may open, because once things settle in a little bit and we realize the virus isn't going to infiltrate here so much, then maybe people will open more. So there we go. The Bauhaus is actually open right now and is serving takeout. So that is open. I think I heard Lucy's is not going to be opening, but like I said, everything is evolving. I don't really know for sure, so don't take what I say as fact, except for the 80 people, because I read it on the paper. Will I be taking my appointments? I think you're on my list to call, Deb. So I'm not going to be doing in-person readings in June until at least we hit phase 4, which is at the earliest June 30th. So I may be shifting some people over a little bit later. And then there's the whole consideration of being 6 feet away from me, the mask issue, the cleaning in between readings, all of that. So there's things that have to be worked out. So most of us will be figuring this out as we go. And I'm really assuming I'm going to get direction from Spirit very soon on this. So right now, that is all I know about my stuff. So there we have that. So we can now move on into other things. I told you about the shows, Lilydale, and my spiritual growth group. So let's talk about loving difficult people. The drama. With these difficult people, sometimes we can walk away, but sometimes we can't. And so it's very interesting how this goes when we have these difficult people in our lives. And I just realized I never told some of you who join me later who I am. I'm Colleen van der Zijden, a medium at Lilydale. I'm also a certified intuitive life coach. You can connect with me on my page, Colleen van der Zijden, medium intuitive life coach, or my website, colleenvanderzijden.com. And don't forget about Lilydale, lilydaleassembly.org. There I've done my advertisements. So now we are really good. So we've all experienced difficult people. We can find it very hard to tolerate them, much less love them. We get so wrapped up in the drama of our emotions, don't we? Because when we meet somebody or we're working with somebody who is a challenge, they trigger us. And so we get stuck in these emotions where we feel like we have to defend ourselves. Sometimes we feel like we're being attacked. Sometimes we feel wronged, and it just makes us stressed out. We get frustrated, we get irritated. Everything just seems to be all around us. But what's happening is we're getting stuck in those emotions. So what we're going to talk about today is some perspective shifts, some questions you can ask yourself to help you get clarity. Clarity on who you are, who you want to be, how you want to respond. Because when we think about these things ahead of time, it's so much easier to handle, isn't it? Rather than when we're thrown into an issue. So these questions, these perspective shifts, can help you move out of that drama and back into the serenity that we deserve and we should be having. We can have peace even if we have to interact with people who are jerks. We can. Remember, we can't change anybody else. And that's where I think sometimes we get stuck with difficult people. We wish they would act a different way. We wish they would say things differently. We wish they would listen to us. We wish they would pay attention, whatever it is, but we can't change them. So the only thing we can do to get back to ourselves is change our perspective. And what is our goal really, right? To feel better. We want to feel better. We want to feel like we're in control. We don't want to be stuck in those difficult, challenging emotions. Now, this is a topic I had been thinking about for some time, but it has been further instigated, I'm not sure that's the right word, but whatever, by the buyers of my house. As you know, I sold my house a few weeks ago. It was a very quick sale. They had cash, so they wanted me out in 2 weeks. Then we managed to change it to 3 weeks. And they were very manipulative. They would agree to something, how much money for the house and the time frame. And then the next day they would come back, well, we're only going to do this if you will. And then they asked me for more concessions. They wanted more money because there were cracks in the driveway. They wanted more money because of this. They wanted this and that. It was ridiculous. So when we were doing this, they had made a contingency on my sale, the sale of my house, for them selling their house. Now they refused to put money in escrow for their house for the septic systems. And they had 4 septic systems because it was a bed and breakfast. They didn't want to put money in escrow. Now their buyer wanted money in escrow, of course, because if something was wrong with them, they wanted to be sure to have the money to fix them. So there was the sale of their bed and breakfast fell through at the last minute. Okay, I'm already packing. I've already bought some things over here to Lilydale. I've already done a whole bunch of stuff. So the sale of their house fell through. Their buyer was threatening a lawsuit for breach of contract. They were being very unreasonable. Everybody was talking about it. Lawyers, everybody. It was quite something. So eventually they decided they would sell their house. They would figure out a way to do it. But then they wanted to move into my house before closing. Having dealt with them and their demands, I knew that if they moved into the house, there would be more demands, even though the real estate agent kept telling me, no, they can't do that. So as I was dealing with this, it was a very interesting time. I intuitively knew the sale was going to go through, even though there were so many times it fell through. I even said to the real estate agent in the middle of a store one day, he said, I'm sorry, it's falling through. I said, it's not going to fall through. I'm telling you, it's going to go through. Don't worry about it. And he says, well, I'll try to listen to you. But I said, no, it's going to go through. But because I knew that, because I knew it was going to go through, and because, you know me, I'm always looking to learn and grow from my situations, I was able to really look at this, how I was responding to them and how they were responding to me. And I did not move into loving them, I can tell you that. But I did move into accepting them for who they are. They were used to having their demands met in everything they ever did. They had money, so they were used to just telling people what they wanted, and everybody would give it to them. And they were finding in this situation that all of us were not giving them what they wanted. So eventually, because I was accepting who they are, eventually their demands became laughable to me. They would ask for something and I would just laugh, and then I would tell my lawyer or the agent, whichever one I was talking with, no, I'm not doing that. They wanted to move their moving trucks into the driveway a week before they could move in, so that they didn't have to put them someplace else and do storage. And I was like, no, I have my own moving trucks. That's not going to work out for me. So this was really very interesting for me. I'm going to look at the comments for 2 seconds. Ryan is saying, my boss is constantly talking about people and causing drama. Everything is gossip and talking about how terrible people are. It's nonstop. She's incredibly hard to love because she just doesn't stop. Yes, and so remember, we can't change other people, can we? So Ryan can't change his boss, so how does he figure out a way to handle that? And that's what we are going to be talking about tonight. And how do we get to that point where we're not triggered when people come at us and attack us or tell us things that are just difficult and challenging? How can we move into that place? And we are going to give you some ideas about this tonight. Now, with these movers of mine, I had not experienced this kind of manipulation before in my life. I really have not. The people who I am surrounded with are, for the most part, lovely, kind people. Everybody is very nice. We get along so well. So I find it at times, for me, very hard to handle people who are just out and out jerks. I just find it very hard. So this was a great learning opportunity for me. It really reminded me of so much. And I realized that if I hadn't done the work on myself, getting to know myself better, I wouldn't have been able to handle them as well as I did. And I don't mean to make it sound like I was all, oh, I got this. No, there was quite the time there where I was not a very nice person, where I was calling them names and all sorts of things because it was very stressful. So I'm not like all high and mighty here, but I learned a lot from this. And they did drive me a bit crazy with their unrealistic, inconsiderate demands. Um, we as people, we want that natural connection. Darlene is saying, my mom triggers me constantly. Doris is saying some people live in 3D and others are ascending to 5D. Yes, so that's a whole other topic, but we are in, I've talked about this, and many of you will remember, the consciousness shift. We are going from, a very physical existence into a more spiritual plane. And it's happening whether or not you want to come, it's going to happen. So our responses are indicating how we are moving through these phases here and how we do this. So as I was saying, it's very natural that we want those personal connections with others. We expect them to act the way we do. We expect them, if we're nice, we expect them to be nice. If we're considerate people and we would do things for them, we would expect them to do the same. Now these people, and I said this to my lawyer, I said, if they had been nice this whole time, I would have said, yeah, you know what, you park your trucks in the driveway, I'll make it work. I would have done that because that's me, but I couldn't because I didn't want to cross my boundaries. What was acceptable to me was very important at that moment, and their behavior was not acceptable, so I didn't have to kowtow to it and give in to these demands. So as I was going through this, thinking about all of the ways that I was responding and how we've all experienced people in our lives who are difficult and challenging. Like some people are saying here, your mom, your boss, your coworkers, your family, whoever, acquaintances, people you just know in your community, whatever it is. We've all experienced people who are very difficult and trigger us. And we've probably all reacted in many different ways. Sometimes we just react. We don't think. We just come right back at somebody, or we respond without thinking at all when we really should have just taken a step back for a second. Sometimes as we do that, if we take that step back and we don't respond right away, then people think we're weak or we don't know what we're talking about. I'm a person that takes time to come up with what I want to say. So I'm not going to respond right away to something that bothers me or anything like this. So when I go through this, I would question myself. So what's the right response? And right is subjective for me, right? What is the right response? How do I respond to people? What should I do? What should I say? How should I say it? But then sometimes we'll go into the why do I have to put up with them? Why are they so nasty? So we have to be aware of ourselves and our normal, typical response so that we can change things down. Now I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself, some perspective shifts, things to really think about to help. I'm going to just look at the comments for a moment just to see. And if you've just joining us, this is Lily Dale Radio. The name of the show is called Embracing Your Essence, and I'm Colleen Vanderzijden. Let's see, it's not too bad with difficult people when I expect the bad behavior. It's when they take you by surprise and when you're unprepared that it is so easy to react when it is not in our best interest to do so. Yes, Seal, yes, yes, yes. Yes, I'm just like, yes. If you know somebody in your life is challenging, you can prepare. We've talked about that before too. You can prepare for it. You can avoid them. You can limit your time. You can give an excuse as to why you have to leave, and you could just say no, But when somebody does take you by surprise, it can be very hard to not automatically just be defensive and come back with some kind of a response that may not be in your best interest. Always take a moment. Always take a moment. So we're going to change perspectives here. So with my buyers, I realize the importance of staying true to who I am and who I want to be at the soul level, my essence, my core. Who am I really? Am I really that person who calls them names? Well, apparently yes. But is that really, really who I am at the soul level? Not really. So I can make a different choice. And if I want to live in authenticity as the loving being that I am, right? And we all are that loving being. If we want to live in that energy, that vibration, that loving flow, then we want to work towards loving people, especially the ones that are really hard to love. We want to work towards that. Those people who are more difficult and challenging. So some questions. How can we love them? What does that mean to love them? What does that mean Think about that for a second. What does that mean? Why do we want to love them? Why? Why do we want to? How do we get there? So I want to talk about the why first. Why do you want to love them? Selfishly, self-care, a little interchangeable right now, because you'll feel better. You will feel better. If you can reach that place of compassion and love, then they don't trigger you. They will not trigger you. And more of what I'm going to talk about will help you move into that space where they won't trigger you. So we want to move into this space. That's the why. We want to move into that space of love and compassion, selfishly sort of, but really self-care, so we're not triggered. And we won't get stuck in those negative emotions. Now, spiritually, you know how I love to talk about spiritually. Spiritually is very important. Do you intentionally want to choose a higher vibrational response? Do you want to do that? If you don't, well, there you go. End of story. But if you do, then this is something to think about. Can you? Is it possible? Do you believe it's possible? You can change and be open to this higher perspective. Can you do it? We've been wronged. Things go wrong. People attack us. It's difficult. It's challenging, stressful, all of that stuff. But we still have a choice in our response. And we must never forget that, the choice. It's not always easy. Like I was telling you with my buyers, I was venting, calling them names. And as I was doing this, of course, eventually, it didn't take too long, really. But it took enough before I realized, is this how you want to live? This is just creating more stress, more anxiety. I didn't want to do that. So I had to dig deep to get back to that conscious, intentional response. So when we choose this higher vibrational response, you notice I got higher when I did that. I wanted to go up higher. It diffuses negativity. It diffuses it. They can come at you all they want. But if you are strong in that high vibrational response, that understanding that you want to be a loving being, that you're going to work towards that, it's not going to bother you as much. It just won't. It's miraculous. So I'm going to look at the comments for a moment. Doris Lynn, the empaths and light workers came to help others. Awareness of heaven on earth. Yes. Yes. And Ryan is saying higher vibrational responses will help you get off the wheel of karma. Lower vibrational will create more. It will. And isn't that true? Think about that. Because if somebody calls you names, okay, we'll just use that as an example, and then you call them names back. Now, I wasn't calling them names back to their face or anything. It was just in my head. Okay, but still not a good vibration. But if you respond that way, all it does is create more of it. It creates more of those negative emotions. It creates more of that lower vibrational stuff, and that's why we feel horrible. So we've got to consciously think about this. When you choose that higher perspective, you're diffusing the negativity. You're using your spiritual power, your connection. And what's happening with that is you're positively affecting yourself, the other person, and the world. You're creating love at that moment because you are choosing to do the best you can to create a better response. You're using your spiritual power to make that higher vibrational choice. What you're going to do. You get to decide. Jill is saying, what if it is your immediate family? Mother, for example. Part of me wants to remain strong. Other part wants to leave the toxicity permanently. And that is a tricky one because, as we all know, there are family members that many people have who are very toxic. Maybe they were abusive at one point. Maybe they were, or they're just not nice people, and it's hard to handle. That becomes a personal choice as to how much you can handle. As I talk more, maybe some of the next things I'll say might help you get some clarity on that. One thing, it's so important. It's so hard. I don't want to say hard. It's such a mind thing to decide the balance between how much you're there for someone who is challenging and difficult and is a family member usually, and how much you have to protect yourself and how you go about that. So I might suggest in that case, and I'll talk about some more things, but sit with some of these ideas and see what feels right. There is no right or wrong answer. If you decide you have to protect yourself and limit your time, Or even some people have to totally move away from people and not be near them ever again. And you'll know if it's the right choice for you because it will feel right in your body. So you'll have to sit with this a little, but I'll ask some more of these questions and see if that can help get some more clarity. So we've talked about the why you would want to send somebody love. Now you can send somebody love and not be with them. You can send them energetically. So you can do that. And it's like prayers. You can send love to people and they do open up to it. So it's an energetic connection. So this doesn't mean loving people means you have to be there all the time and put up with stuff necessarily too. So there's different ways to love, which is actually leading me into my next comment. So what perspective can you choose to give you that higher vibrational response? How can you be open? So answering the question of what does it mean for you to love somebody, to respond to somebody with love? People always, I shouldn't say always either, no absolutes here. Frequently people, when they talk about love, you think, oh, I just love you so much. And you're thinking about, loving a partner or kids or your dog and that kind of love. But there's different layers of love here that I want to talk about. So what feels right to you? What is the physical manifestation of how you're going to demonstrate love? What does it mean to you? Some people, the way they show love is by spending time with somebody. Another way they show love is just being considerate. And I don't want to minimize by saying the word just, being considerate. So what does it mean to you? Sometimes tolerating is the best we can do. And tolerating is not one where we're sending negative energy at somebody. We recognize that's the way they are, and we're just dealing with it, okay? Not necessarily a good or a bad, we're just dealing with it. Sometimes that's the best we can do. Acceptance is a form of love, a layer of love. So we can accept them. I can accept my buyers as being who they are. That's just the way they were. They're used to getting their way. And I just happen to be on the receiving end of it, as were the lawyers and the other buyer. So we have to do that, move into acceptance. When we move into acceptance, we're not getting emotionally attached, so we're not being triggered. Okay? We can also be considerate, which means we can respond with a different energy than somebody is throwing at us. We can choose to do that. I'm going to read Devin's comment. I've been missing you. Oh, thank you. And this is meant for me tonight. My mother-in-law's giving me a tough time, and maybe I'm returning that tough time. It's just hard. It is hard because, when somebody's coming at us with that energy, it's very natural. We want to defend ourselves. And so we respond in the same way. And we all do it. Everybody does it. I don't think I've met anybody who doesn't. So this talk tonight, what I'm talking about, is helping us make more deliberate choices in how we respond to these people. So being considerate is not responding in the same vibration. We make that conscious choice. We say to ourselves, you know what? Take that deep breath, take a minute or two or a day, whatever it takes for you to get to that space where you can go, I understand what you were saying, and then you can go on with whatever your response needs to be. You can detach from creating more drama, which we basically touched on a few minutes ago. Detach from creating more drama and responding with the low vibration. Just detach. And when we respond with the low vibration, again, that's when we get sucked into those negative emotions, the ones that challenge us. We get sucked into the drama. And instead, we're going to make a deliberate choice to choose to create love the way it is right for you. So the way you might create love for a grocery store clerk who's not very polite, you can respond with kindness back to her. Maybe she's having a bad day or whatever, and you're going to be kind to her. That may be a different thing than, say, Jill's mom or Devin's mother-in-law, giving them a hard time. That we want to, you might respond, you have to respond probably in a different manner because it's a family relationship. It may need to be maintained and it may not be, so there is a little bit more challenging there. So how can you respond to love to that person without sacrificing yourself and your peace of mind? And you've got to know that you're doing what's right for you. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to do what's right for you. You're living your life. Somebody else giving you a hard time, they're trying to control you is what's happening. You don't have to let them control you. You respond the way you feel right for you. Your perspective on what love means to you. And again, different layers. Sometimes tolerating is the best we're going to do. Other times we can move into that really giving, compassionate, loving state where we can truly look at them basically with the eyes of God and go, you know what? I understand that maybe you don't understand, but it's okay. I still love you. It's fine. So we may be able to get that way. So you've got to think about what love means to you and how you can express it. That's right for you. Now, the next perspective I want to talk about, which is very essential, isn't everything essential to me, right? Is that you do understand yourself, that you be self-aware. It's so simple for me to tell you, oh, be aware of yourself, right? I've been working on myself for 20 years. And still, I'm sharing the story about how I got sucked into the emotions and the drama from these people. And, but I caught myself, okay? So it's okay. It's okay. 20 years I've spent learning about myself. And thank God I have, or I'm pretty sure I don't even know how my life would be right now if I hadn't worked on myself as much as I have, because I can get into that different perspective. And that's why I love to share these with you, because I want to help you be happier too and have more joy in your life. So being self-aware, remember, everything is here to help you on your life journey. And your life journey is discovering who you really are at your core, your soul, your essence, who you really are, your divine nature, your connection to the divine, the energy, the God energy. And as you're growing and living on your life journey here, you're evolving. You're growing into yourself, into your soul. So you already have all this in here. Everything's already inside of you. You're just becoming more aware of it. You're becoming more aware of who you are, and you're becoming more aware of the power you have to choose that higher perspective. So it's not as difficult as it might sound. It's just being open to yourself, being open to understanding how you typically respond, possibly. If you know somebody triggers you when they say something, you know that. That's an awareness, okay? You have the awareness. So then you get to decide. You get to decide. Nobody's going to tell you. You get to decide how you're going to respond. You choose. It's amazing. It's miraculous. It's powerful. You have that power inside of you. Nobody can tell you what exactly to do. I can give you some suggestions. You try them out, see what works. But you get to decide. We have free will here. When you understand yourself as best you can, and this doesn't mean you have to be perfect by any means, by no means. None of us are perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. When you understand yourself, when we understand ourselves, then these situations where we have these difficult people, we're able to take that step back and look at it from a new angle. Loving somebody else, loving difficult people, doesn't mean we're violating our boundaries. We don't have to violate the boundaries of what's acceptable. We don't have to. It doesn't mean we don't stand up for ourselves. We can still love somebody and say, no, that's not acceptable. Sorry, it's the way it is. We also don't have to limit ourselves to please other people. That's a tricky balance here, especially when we're talking about relationships that are in the family. We don't have to limit ourselves. We can choose. You can choose to speak up, speak your mind, or you can choose to not speak up, to keep the peace. But you're making the choice. Make it intentional. You're doing that. And you're basing it on yourself, your understanding of yourself. So when we understand ourselves, we love ourselves as well, enough to respond to another person from the highest vibration that we can do at that time. We're taking our own needs into consideration. Very important for us. And we choose to demonstrate that self-care to ourselves. We're not necessarily demonstrating to others. We are, but the point is to do it to ourselves. We want to use the self-love to the best of our abilities. And we're learning as we go. We're just learning as we go. There's no manual. Nobody gave us a manual, told us how to do this. Well, when, Tom says this to you, then you might need to say this back. We don't have that manual. So we want to create our own as we go. I was reading someplace, I don't know where I saw it, where somebody said, it was something to do with loving other people, that you can't love other people until you love yourself. And whoever posted this, wherever I saw it, made a comment that they didn't agree with that. And I don't agree with that either, because we just do to the best of our abilities. And we can love other people, and we love ourselves to the best of our abilities here too. So it's not, so if somebody, I'm digressing apparently, but if somebody says you can't love another person until you love yourself, they're actually blaming you for not loving somebody else the way it should be or something. So no, you're loving yourself to the best of your abilities right now. Don't beat yourself up if you think it should be more. You're doing the best you can. There you go. Perfect. That's all we need. So let's see. What else did I want to say? Oh, when you understand yourself, you're in your power. You're taking action that's in alignment with who you are to the best of your abilities again. Okay, so we've talked about the whys. We've talked about the spiritual aspect. We've talked about what love means to you. We've talked about understanding yourself, being aware of who you are, what you want. Now, shifting your perspective on the situation, it's essential we move away from being a victim. Being a victim. When we're a victim, we blame others. We blame them for how we feel. Blame is about the lowest vibration there is. It is the lowest thing possible because that is no power. We've given our power away totally. So it's not a spiritual perspective. So if you catch yourself blaming others for how you feel, you want to choose that higher vibrational response. And I know somebody out there right now is talking about, but they did this, but they said this, but they're so stupid, but whatever. Yes, okay, the facts may be that, yes, they did say that, but you're in charge of your response. You're in charge of your reaction. You're in charge of how you read that. You're in charge of all of the response that you have. Yes. So let's say, and I want to pick something that's not heavy duty, okay? So let's say you're standing in line at the store and somebody cuts in front of you. And another person says, hey, you cut in front of that person over there. And the person who cuts in front of you says, hey, whatever, so what, I don't care. You have a choice if you're going to get involved in that altercation right there. So whoever the other person was that yelled at them, is it worth it to stand up and say, hey, you cut in front of me, you know, the line's back here, or just let it go? You have a choice in how you do that. So we have to learn how to become aware of how we respond and how we react. When we blame other people, what I like to do, and you know how I love to learn about things, I like to explore this. Okay, why are we blaming somebody else? What is being triggered within you? Something is being triggered. Or is there a meaning to that? You know, like if your mother, let's use the mother example, if your mother is very critical of you, okay, this is you're going to blame her probably for how you feel, because why? Because you might feel less than good enough. You might feel unworthy. You might feel unloved. You might feel as though she doesn't see you. You might feel attacked, which causes you to be defensive. Okay, so there's a meaning that's within there. Okay, so explore that meaning. If your mother is so critical that you feel that she doesn't love you, and it may be true, right? It could be true. Are you then taking that in turning it into a self-belief that you're not lovable? Are you taking that on? It wouldn't trigger you so much if you loved yourself enough. Okay, so if it triggers you because you feel like you're not loved, then we have to explore further. What can we do to affirm to yourself that you are worthy of love? It's very natural. We've talked about the human condition. You know, our parents are supposed to love us. Our friends are supposed to love us. And when they don't, it cuts us. It takes away our foundation of who we are. So that's a big one. That's a real big one. And if I have clients who have that situation, I usually refer them to a counselor so that they can figure out different ways to handle it, you know. So you can have that insight, but at the same time, sometimes we need a little more support as we go through that. Seal is saying sometimes people are difficult, but also sometimes we blame others for their bad behavior. But sometimes we need to look in the mirror and see if our expectations were not realistic. It's often no one's fault. Yes, and I can't see the rest of it. And I'm always afraid to touch something while I'm live because I might mess it up somehow. But yes, I remember talking to a counselor about that once when I was in a relationship and we were in counseling. I said, our expectations of each other are totally not in alignment. And the counselor did not take that further, which is what I really wanted. And I was like, but we need to talk about this. So we have these expectations about how somebody else should act. So then we blame them for not acting the way we want them to. We want them to be a certain way, but then they're not that way. We expect them to respond in a certain way, and they don't. So that's another aspect of self-growth and how we become aware of ourselves and learn about ourselves. When we explore those meanings behind these interpretations, if we can be open to it, it's really kind of a game. If we can step aside from those emotions and turn it into a game where we go, okay, why is she triggering me? What is really triggering me now? Why is this? And being willing to explore the different thoughts that come in. You might be surprised to find out what meaning you're giving to something. It may not be what you expect. It might be something else. And we just kind of follow it as best we can. Now, the fear, of course, is the root of all of these negative, more challenging emotions. Feeling unworthy, unloved, attacked. There's a fear there that frequently reflects that we have that belief inside ourselves that we're not good enough, and other people are affirming that. So when they affirm that misbelief, then we react because we feel like we have to defend ourselves and lift ourselves up. But really, it's just giving us an opportunity. It's like a doorway to look at ourselves and say, wait, what's going on here? What's going on? What do I need to be reminded of? What is it I need to learn about myself? So it's a little doorway. Now, here's another perspective to consider. And some of this idea came when I was reading about a past life experience somebody had had. They'd had a bad past life experience with somebody who turned out to be their husband in this lifetime. And she kept asking, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Because it was a bad experience in both lifetimes. And the mention in here, in what I was reading, said that that she was a part of the lesson of what he needed to learn in this lifetime. So these people who are difficult around you, you might be a part of the lesson they are learning in this life. Isn't that an interesting thought? You might be showing them something that they need to know. This perspective can help you detach from the negative emotions and detach from the reactions and look at the situation from a bigger picture. So, for example, let's say somebody's being very inconsiderate with you. By refusing to allow them to be inconsiderate with you, you might be teaching them the concept that they need to be aware of how other people respond. They may need to learn more about consideration, or that it's not all about them. If you say no to the unacceptable, you might be teaching somebody the importance of respect, respecting personal boundaries, respecting people. You might need to be teaching them that. If you're taking care of your own needs rather than putting somebody else first, minimizing yourself, limiting who you are, staying quiet when you should speak. If you speak up, you do those things. So take care of your own needs. You might be teaching them independence if they're too reliant on you, or maybe you might be teaching them empathy or compassion. But this does not mean you're telling them what to do. You're certainly not saying to them, this is what I think you should do. This is what I think you should say. This is what you need to learn. You're not doing that. And that's a lot of the problem we have in the United States right now, because people are telling other people what they should think, learn, do, what they should be, how they should be behaving. So you're not telling them that. You're demonstrating by your actions something that they need to learn on their life path. So you're a part of their path on their soul evolution, and it may also be helping you with your soul evolution at the same time. They have free will if they're going to choose to learn or not. They can do whatever they want with that information. Okay, looking at the comments again. Stacy is saying, I feel that with blame, whether it's targeting yourself or someone else, it's almost always results in hurt feelings and other negative responses. It's a downward spiral. That is so true. Yes. Even if you blame yourself, yes, she's saying too, right? Blaming yourself or blaming others. Whenever we consciously step into that, and it's a habit. It's a habit. We just do it. We aren't deciding, oh, I'm going to go blame this person. We just react. So if you catch yourself with that blame, you're just unaware at that moment. But if you decided, okay, for this week only, I am going to notice how I respond to difficult people. Am I blaming them for how I feel? And just notice. You're not going to blame yourself for not being spiritual enough or anything like that. You're just going to notice so you can become self-aware. And what is it? Awareness is what? 99% of the battle or something. So this will help you. Excuse me. Sorry. I hope that wasn't too loud. Let's see. Stefan. Medea always says you got to love yourself to love someone else. What she means is that if you get all of your resources away to an individual and leave yourself with nothing, you're enabling an individual to be codependent on you. Yes, and I won't look at the rest of it because, like I said before, I don't want to touch anything. I'm always afraid of that. So, yes, so there's so many different perspectives that we can have when it comes to dealing with difficult people. You notice I did not tell you what to say to difficult people. I did not tell you that they're wrong and you're right. I didn't tell you that. I'm telling you how to shift your perspective. Because you have the power to step out of that stuff. You have the power to respond from that higher perspective, from your soul's perspective, from that loving being that you are. This does not mean that every time something happens, you immediately go into that happy place and you just respond, well, with all this love and joy. No, you're probably going to have some emotional reaction, and that is perfectly fine. You need to have the emotional reaction. Just try very hard not to send it to them. Don't do the reaction of sending the anger at them. Take that step back. Take the step back. We don't want to say anything ahead of its time. Okay, we want to make sure we choose the words wisely. These difficult people are an opportunity to practice creating love. They're an opportunity for you to practice creating love. If you can take that on as a belief system, as something to play with, something to experiment with, that will help you make those intentional choices. You'll be affirming your spiritual connection. You'll be learning more about yourself. You'll be more aware. You'll be reconnecting to your soul. You'll be using your spiritual power to create more love for yourself and the other people. But most of all, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. You won't get stuck in that quicksand of the emotions where you just get so frustrated and irritated. You won't. So, how to get there? I went through a whole bunch of things, a little bit of a recap here for you. If you decide you want to be expressing love, that's first. You've got to decide. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you just want to keep reacting the same way. Maybe you think you're getting back at somebody by reacting the same way. Revenge is never right and is a low vibration. But if you decide you want to be expressing love to the best of your abilities so that you can detach from the drama and create more serenity, then just think about some of these things. They'll help you guide your responses. The more you understand yourself, the better you'll respond. Understand that everything is an opportunity to learn about yourself. Be aware of who you are, and you're always evolving. So who you are today may be totally different tomorrow. You could have an amazing insight tonight while you're sleeping and wake up tomorrow and go, oh my gosh, I just realized that person is such a jerk. Sorry, had to do it. Because they went through this problem just a little while ago and they're very insecure and they don't know how to handle it. So that's why they're putting that energy out. So you may be able to reframe them. It might just come to you. You'll think about what love means to you. What does it mean to you? How do you want to do it? How do you want to express it? What's your physical manifestation of love? And remember, it's different for each person in your life. You love the grocery store clerk differently than you love your mother, than you love your child, than you love your dog, than you love your plant, whatever it is. You want to make that decision. Just think about it. Look at how you do respond, because you don't want to be that victim. You're not a victim. Don't blame other people for how you feel. Realize, so here's the benefit of that. If you don't blame others for how you feel, you're not giving your power away. You're in your power. You're right in here with it. So you're reclaiming your power. And when you reclaim your power, that means you have the ability to choose. You have it. It's a fact. It is a fact. It's not a sometimes maybe. It's no, it's 100%. It's a fact. You always have the ability to choose. I am preaching at you right now, apparently. And then understand that power of choice. Understand it. When you're stuck in the emotions because of difficult people, what choice can you make to shift out of it? And remember, feel the emotions, yes, but sometimes we got to take that step back. We've got to take it back. So, it can take time to process emotions. It can. It's not going to be an instantaneous thing. The more you practice stepping back, the faster your shift will be. So if somebody pisses you off tomorrow and they really get you good, and it takes you 2 days to get through it. 2 days, 2 days of venting, complaining, all sorts of stuff. But by the end of the 2 days, you'll have a better perspective. The next time somebody irritates you, it might only take you 1 day to get through it because you've had the practice. You've gotten through it and then you made a different choice. So you're showing the universe, I got this, I can do this, help me, but I got this. Okay, then the next time a day, then the next time it only might take a couple hours. Next time it might only take an hour. The more you practice, the more you become aware, the more it's going to work. Of course, when we have those surprise responses from people or reactions or attacks, it can leave us speechless and keep it speechless. And then you can decide later. So as you're going through all this, remember you're learning. Do you want to learn about yourself? Some people do. My listeners and the people who follow me, my page and stuff, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are into learning about yourself. You want to learn about yourself. You want to be that spiritual being that you are. You want to be love, and you want your soul to evolve. So allow that to happen. And remember, when you choose to respond from that higher vibrational perspective, you are diffusing the negativity. You're diffusing it. It's disappearing. It's going away. It's done. It's gone. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing. I can make it sound so simple or complicated at the same time. But really, it all boils down to being aware of yourself, how you respond, and how you decide to use your soul's power of choice to respond. That's what it all boils down to. I would suggest, if this is a new concept for you, that you pick one thing. If you know you like to blame people for how you feel, then just become aware of that. If you are aware of that already, or that's not your issue, figure out, what you need to explore for yourself. Start figuring out why you're being triggered. Okay, that's another aspect, another avenue you can follow. What triggers you? What meaning do you give to something that's triggering you? Now, the meaning, you'll start out with a meaning projected onto the other person, but reflect it back to yourself. Like I used that example before. If you feel like your mother doesn't love you, then how's your self-love going? Okay, if your boss is very critical of you, or your coworkers are very critical of you, what inside yourself is triggered? Why do you feel somehow unworthy or not good enough? What part is in there? So play with these ideas. These are not meant for you to look at them and then get sucked into that quicksand again, where you go, oh, I'm just not good enough and I'm never going to be. No, we're not doing that. We're becoming aware. Once we become aware, then we can shift it and go, oh, I get it. I understand. That's why I respond that way. That's why I say that. That's why they trigger me. And then just make the choice not to respond the same way. Make the choice to let it go. Make the choice. These emotions, these challenging emotions that are triggered by difficult people, are opening a doorway for you to learn more about yourself. They're opening it. Behind that difficult emotion is something amazing that you can learn about yourself. So if you feel like you're not worthy of love, that's telling you, yes, we want to learn more about the love. But I bet you if you explore yourself, you'll see all the many different ways you are a being of love, and you have helped so many other people, how you help people around you, how you help yourself, how you're kind, you're considerate, you're loving. You'll start to see all these. They're all there for you to find. Sorry, I'm choking again. Okay, so I think that is all I wanted to talk about. I'm looking around my room. I am in my reading room at Lilydale. Sorry, geez, I'm hoping that's not too loud for you. Sorry. It's a little dusty in here. Somebody hasn't cleaned this room in a little bit. Somebody's going to do it in the next couple of days. Yeah, so I'm in Lilydale. I am now living in Lilydale. As I told you before, I sold my house in Fredonia, so now I'm living in I am calling it my cozy cottage. Things are not unpacked, and it took me quite a long time to find my lipstick this evening. So this is what we're doing, but I think this will work. I think it'll work out okay. So I do want to thank you guys all for watching and listening. I am Colleen Vander Zijden. You can connect with me on my Facebook page. Please follow me there. Colleen Vander Zijden, medium and intuitive life coach. And on my website, ColleenVanderZijden.com or psychicmediumcolleen.com. And if you are on my mailing list, you probably have noticed we are sending out regular emails. We're sending them out for the shows. We're sending out all the things I give you, the downloads and stuff. And I did not forget about that one thing. There was something I was going to do a meditation for you guys, but it was right when everything started happening with my house. I have it. I will get to it at some point soon and help you. Ryan, where did you get that chakra scroll behind you? I think I got it at the Crystal Cove. If I didn't get it there, it might have been in Virginia Beach at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the Edgar Cayce place in Virginia Beach. I might have gotten it at the bookstore there. I can't remember, though I think it was at Crystal Cove. So yeah, isn't it fun? It's really cool back there. So, and you can also connect with Lilydale, lilydaleassembly.org, and their website is not quite up to date right yet because it doesn't say that all the workshops are online. They haven't deleted. I don't know. I think some people have pulled out. I don't know the whole story. I don't know the whole story. So it's not quite up to date, but they're working on it. The Facebook page may be more accurate. Lilydale Assembly Incorporated on Facebook, so you can follow them there. Okay, so I shall. And Barbara's like, keep talking, keep going, keep going. I know, I talk so much, don't I? What time is it? Oh, I talked a long time tonight. But I knew I would because I haven't seen you in so long and I missed talking to you. And I also had to tell you about the new shows and about Lilydale and everything else too. Plus tell you how to handle these people that we all have in our lives. So I had to do that. So thank you so much for joining. I hope this was helpful. I hope that it will help you shift your perspective. And I mostly hope that it will give you more peace and joy. Because what is life? It's not worth living all the time if we don't have more peace and joy. Not that we don't all have issues and challenges sometimes and problems and horrible things happen, but we want as much peace and joy as possible. So these perspective shifts will help you as much as they can. So, okay, I guess I'll stop. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you next week. Don't know what I'm talking about yet, but Spirit will let me know. You guys have a great week. Let me know how it goes. If you get a good story about some difficult people and how you handled it, I would love, 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 love to hear your success stories. Wouldn't that be fun? We can all share and support each other. And if you haven't joined the Spiritual Growth and Support Group, that would be a great place to share, though you can do it on my page as well. So we would all be there for you because the people on my Spiritual Growth and Support page are amazingly wonderful people. So you have a great week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.